The emergency sirens blared across the command bridge of the battleship Intrepid as Queen Elena Martinez gripped the metal railing with white knuckles. Her dark eyes blazed with fury as she stared at the tactical display showing the alien vessel that had just disappeared into hyperspace. Her daughter was aboard that ship. "Your Majesty, we're tracking the vessel's hyperspace signature," reported Commander Jake Sullivan from his position at the navigation console. "They're heading toward the Theta Centauri system." Elena's jaw tightened. Princess Maria Martinez, only 19 years old and the heir to the human colonial empire, had been participating in a diplomatic mission to establish trade relations with the Zalarian Republic. The negotiations had been proceeding smoothly until the Korthak Syndicate, a notorious alien pirate organization, had launched a surprise attack on the neutral station where the talks were being held. "How long ago did they jump?" Elena demanded, her voice sharp as a blade. 47 minutes, Your Majesty," replied Lieutenant Amy Foster, her fingers dancing across the sensor controls. "Their ship is a modified Korthak destroyer, heavily armed and equipped with military-grade shielding." Elena turned to face Admiral Paul Jensen, her most trusted military advisor. The older man's weathered face showed concern as he approached the Queen. "Your Majesty, I must advise caution. The Korthak are known for their ruthlessness. If we pursue aggressively, they might harm the princess. And if we don't act quickly, they'll disappear into the Outer Rim territories where we'll never find her," Elena shot back. "Paul, you know what they do to human captives. My daughter will not become another statistic." The bridge crew worked frantically around them, preparing the ship for immediate departure. Elena had built the human colonial empire through decisive action and unwavering determination. When humanity had first encountered hostile alien species 15 years ago, she had been a naval captain who had fought in the brutal border wars. Her tactical genius and refusal to surrender had earned her rapid promotions, and when the previous emperor had died without an heir, the military council had unanimously chosen her to lead. "Captain Lisa Brown, set course for Theta Centauri," Elena commanded. "Maximum burn. I want us there in 36 hours. Your Majesty," Captain Brown responded from the helm. "At maximum burn, we'll arrive with depleted fuel reserves and potentially damaged engines. I don't care if we have to drift home. My daughter comes first." Elena's voice carried the authority of someone who had never backed down from a fight. The massive engines of the Intrepid roared to life, pushing the battleship to dangerous speeds through hyperspace. Elena paced the bridge like a caged predator, her mind racing through possible scenarios and tactical options. The Korthak were notorious for their slave trade operations, capturing members of various species and selling them to the highest bidder in the galaxy's criminal underworld. "Your Majesty, incoming transmission from Earth Command," announced Communications Officer Tony Walsh. "Put it through," Elena ordered. General Kevin Murphy's stern face appeared on the main view screen. "Elena, I've just received word about the princess. The Joint Chiefs are mobilizing the Third Fleet to assist in the rescue operation." "No," Elena replied firmly. "By the time the Third Fleet reaches the Outer Rim, it will be too late. I'm handling this personally." "Elena, you can't take on the entire Korthak Syndicate with a single ship. No matter how advanced the Intrepid is, let us coordinate a proper military response." "Kevin, with respect, you don't understand what I'm capable of when someone threatens my family." Elena's eyes burned with deadly intent. The Korthak made a mistake when they took Maria. They're about to learn why humans are feared across the galaxy. The transmission ended, and Elena turned back to her crew. "Status report." Lieutenant Foster looked up from her console. "We're making good time, Your Majesty. However, our intelligence suggests the Korthak are heading to their primary stronghold on Vex Prime, a heavily fortified moon in the Theta Centauri system." "What are we dealing with?" Elena asked. "Orbital defense platforms, a fleet of at least 30 vessels, and ground installations protected by energy shields," reported Admiral Jensen. "It's essentially an impregnable fortress." Elena smiled grimly. "Paul, you should know by now that I don't believe in impregnable fortresses. Every defense can be broken if you hit it hard enough in the right place." The hours passed slowly as the Intrepid raced through hyperspace. Elena remained on the bridge, refusing offers to rest or eat. She studied intelligence reports on Korthak military capabilities, reviewed tactical assessments of their stronghold, and coordinated with her senior staff to develop an attack plan. "Your Majesty," Captain Brown announced, "we're approaching the Theta Centauri system, dropping out of hyperspace in 5 minutes." Elena straightened, feeling the familiar surge of adrenaline that came before battle. "All hands, battle stations." "This is not a rescue mission. This is war." The view screen flickered as the Intrepid emerged from hyperspace, and Elena saw the forbidding sight of Vex Prime ahead. The moon's surface bristled with defensive installations, and dozens of Korthak ships patrolled the surrounding space. It looked exactly like the suicide mission Admiral Jensen had predicted. "Your Majesty," Lieutenant Foster reported, "we're being hailed by the Korthak fleet commander. Put him through." A reptilian face appeared on screen, with cold yellow eyes and scarred green skin. "I am War Captain Zekthar of the Korthak Syndicate. You will surrender immediately or be destroyed." Elena stepped forward, her voice deadly calm. "I am Queen Elena Martinez of the Human Colonial Empire. You have something that belongs to me. Return my daughter unharmed, and I might consider letting some of you live." Zekthar's laugh was a harsh, grating sound. "Your spawn is worth millions on the slave markets. You have 10 seconds to surrender before we obliterate your ship." "Counter-offer," Elena replied, her hand moving to the weapons control panel. "You have 10 seconds to release her before I show you why humans conquered half the galaxy." The transmission ended, and Elena turned to her crew with fire in her eyes. "Ladies and gentlemen, let's remind the universe why they fear the human war machine. The battle for Princess Maria Martinez was about to begin, and Queen Elena Martinez had every intention of winning, no matter the cost. The Korthak had taken her daughter, but they had also awakened something far more dangerous than they could imagine." The space around Vex Prime erupted in blazing weapons fire as the Intrepid engaged the Korthak fleet. Queen Elena stood at the center of the bridge, her calm demeanor masking the storm of rage within her as she directed the battle with surgical precision. "Starboard batteries, target their lead destroyer," she commanded. "Amy, I want continuous scans for the ship that took Maria." Lieutenant Foster's fingers flew across her console. "Detecting the modified destroyer, Your Majesty. It's docked at the primary station, heavily guarded by 4 cruisers." The Intrepid's advanced human technology gave it a significant advantage over individual Korthak vessels, but the enemy had numbers. Elena watched as her ship's quantum torpedoes tore through enemy shields while the enhanced armor plating deflected return fire. "Captain Brown, evasive pattern Delta, take us through their formation," Elena ordered. "I want them confused and scattered." "Your Majesty, that's going to put us in the crossfire of their entire fleet," Captain Brown warned. "Good. When they're all shooting at us, they can't coordinate their defenses properly." Elena's tactical mind was operating at peak efficiency, seeing patterns and opportunities that others missed. Admiral Jensen moved to her side. "Elena, this is madness. We should withdraw and wait for reinforcements. Paul, my daughter has been in their hands for over 50 hours. Every minute we delay increases the chance they'll move her to another location or worse." Elena's voice carried absolute determination. "Besides, when have you ever known me to retreat?" The Intrepid dove through the enemy formation, its weapons blazing continuously. 3 Korthak destroyers exploded in brilliant fireballs as the human battleship's superior fireball found its targets. But more enemy ships were moving to intercept, and the orbital defense platforms were beginning to fire. "Your Majesty, we're taking heavy damage to the port armor sections," reported Chief Engineer Rick Murphy from his damage control station. "Stupid Cherokee person, too." Elena studied the tactical display, her mind calculating angles and possibilities. "Tony, open a channel to all human frequencies." Full broadcast. Communications Officer Walsh looked puzzled but complied. "Channel open, Your Majesty. This is Queen Elena Martinez. Broadcast to any human vessel in range. My daughter has been taken by the Korthak Syndicate. I need immediate assistance at Vex Prime in the Theta Centauri system. This is a call to arms." Within minutes, responses began flooding in. Captain Dan Foster of the merchant vessel Liberty reported his position and estimated arrival time. Commander Beth Wilson aboard the patrol ship Defiant announced she was already en route. Even civilian ships began transmitting their willingness to help. Your Majesty, Admiral Jensen said with growing amazement. We're receiving responses from dozens of vessels, military, merchant marine, even private ships. They're all heading this way. Jaila, Breaker. The Korthak think they're fighting one angry mother. They're about to discover they've challenged the entire human species. The battle continued to rage around them as the Intrepid pressed its attack. Elena's strategy was working. The scattered enemy formation was struggling to maintain coordinated fire, and several Korthak ships had collided while trying to avoid the human battleship's devastating weapons. Lisa, bring us around to attack Vector 7. I want a clear shot at that station, Elena commanded. Your Majesty, the defensive platforms will have us in a crossfire, Captain Brown warned. Then we better make this shot count. Elena moved to the weapons console and began inputting targeting data herself. I am going to punch a hole right through their station's shields. The Intrepid swung around in a graceful arc, its weapons charging for a concentrated assault. Elena watched the targeting display as the station grew larger on the view screen. Somewhere inside that structure, her daughter was being held captive. All forward batteries, concentrate fire on Section 7 of the station's shielding, Elena ordered. Rick, I need every bit of power you can give the weapons. Diverting power from life support and non-essential systems, Chief Engineer Murphy reported. You've got full power to weapons for 4 minutes maximum. The concentrated firepower of the Intrepid struck the station's shields like a hammer blow. The energy barrier flickered and wavered under the assault, but held firm. Elena gritted her teeth and continued the bombardment. Amy, are you detecting any structural weakness in their shielding? Elena asked. Lieutenant Foster studied her sensors intently. There's a slight fluctuation in the shield matrix near the docking ports. The generators might be overloading. All batteries, target the docking port shield generators, Elena commanded. The tactical situation was becoming desperate. Enemy reinforcements were arriving from deeper in the system, and the Intrepid's shields were failing under the continuous assault. But, Elena pressed on, driven by a mother's love and a queen's duty. Suddenly, new contacts appeared on the sensor display. Captain Foster's merchant ship Liberty dropped out of hyperspace, its cargo holds converted with makeshift weapons. Commander Wilson's patrol ship Defiant arrived moments later, its small but powerful guns already firing at Korthak vessels. Your Majesty, this is Captain Helen Gray aboard the mining ship Prospector, came a voice over the communication channel. I've got a full load of industrial explosives if you can use them. Elena smiled fiercely. Helen, can you get close enough to ram that station's shield generator? Consider it done, Your Majesty. For the princess. The mining ship accelerated toward the station, its hull glowing from enemy fire but holding together through sheer determination. When the Prospector struck the shield generator complex, the explosion was visible across the entire system. Shields are down on the station, Lieutenant Foster reported. I'm detecting the princess's location. She's in the detention block, Section 12. Elena turned to her Marine commander, Colonel Steve Patterson. Steve, I need your best assault team ready for immediate deployment. We're going in, Your Majesty. You can't seriously be considering leading the boarding action yourself, Admiral Jensen protested. Paul, that's my daughter in there. No one else is going to rescue her. Elena's voice brooked no argument. The Korthak wanted to take something precious from humanity. Now they're going to learn the price of that mistake. As more human ships arrived and joined the battle, Elena prepared to board the enemy station personally. The Korthak had awakened something they couldn't control, and Princess Maria Martinez would be coming home. Queen Elena Martinez stood in the armory aboard the Intrepid, strapping on combat armor that she hadn't worn since the border wars 15 years earlier. The familiar weight of the tactical vest and the pulse rifle felt natural in her hands as she prepared to personally lead the rescue mission for her daughter. Your Majesty, the assault shuttle is ready for launch, reported Colonel Patterson as he approached with 12 elite Marines. We've identified the optimal breach point on the station's detention level. Elena checked her weapon one final time. Steve, I want this done fast and clean. Get in, get Maria, get out. No unnecessary heroics. Ma'am, with respect, your presence on this mission is an unnecessary risk, Colonel Patterson said carefully. Let my team handle the extraction while you coordinate from the ship. Elena's dark eyes flashed with determination. "Colonel, my daughter has been in enemy hands for 53 hours. I've spent every minute of that time planning this rescue. I'm not sitting on the sidelines while someone else brings her home." The assault shuttle bay was a scene of controlled chaos as human ships continued to arrive in the system. Captain Brown's voice came over the intercom. "Your Majesty, we now have 17 vessels engaged with the enemy fleet. The Korthak are retreating to defensive positions around their primary installations." Elena nodded with grim satisfaction. "The entire human species responds when one of our own is threatened. The Korthak are about to learn that lesson the hard way." The shuttle launched from the Intrepid's bay, streaking toward the damaged station through a maze of weapons, fire, and debris. Elena gripped her rifle as the small craft shook from near misses, and the pilot, Lieutenant Carl Anderson, skillfully evaded enemy defensive fire. "Approaching breach point Alpha," Lieutenant Anderson announced. "Station shields are still down in Section 12, but they're trying to repair them." Elena activated her communicator. "All ships, this is Queen Martinez. Continue suppressing fire on the station's shield generators. Do not let them restore defensive capabilities." "Copy that, Your Majesty," replied Captain Helen Gray from the damaged mining ship Prospector. "We're keeping them busy out here." The assault shuttle attached to the station's hull with magnetic clamps, and Elena felt the familiar rush of adrenaline that came with combat operations. The Marines deployed shaped charges against the station's outer hull while Elena reviewed the schematic of the detention block on her tactical display. "Breach in 3, 2, 1, Colonel Patterson announced. The explosion shook the shuttle as a hole was blown through the station's armored hull. Elena was the first through the breach, her rifle raised and ready. The Korthak station's interior was a maze of dark corridors and alien architecture, but Elena's enhanced tactical display guided her toward the detention block. "Contact front," Sergeant Lisa Rodriguez called out as 3 Korthak guards rounded a corner, their plasma weapons charging. Elena's rifle spoke first, her shots precise and lethal. The alien guards dropped before they could fire, their weapons clattering to the metal deck. Elena had fought these creatures during the border wars, and she knew their weaknesses. "Move, move, move," Elena commanded, leading her team deeper into the station. They encountered increasing resistance as they approached the detention block. Korthak security forces had been alerted to the breach and were moving to intercept the human assault team. Elena fought with the skill and ruthlessness that had made her legendary during the border wars, her rifle finding targets with mechanical precision. "Your Majesty, I'm detecting multiple hostile contacts converging on our position," reported Corporal Mike Johnson, the team's sensor specialist. "They're trying to surround us." Elena studied the tactical display on her helmet's heads-up system. "There's a maintenance corridor 50 meters ahead on the right. We'll use it to bypass their main force and approach the detention block from an unexpected direction." The maintenance corridor was cramped and filled with alien machinery, but it provided cover from enemy sensors. Elena crawled through the narrow space with her Marines following close behind, their weapons ready for immediate action. "Steve, what's our time situation?" Elena asked Colonel Patterson. "We've been aboard for 18 minutes, Your Majesty. Station security is getting organized, and they'll be setting up coordinated defensive positions soon." Elena nodded. Every minute they spent aboard the station increased the risk of casualties and mission failure. But she had come too far to turn back now. Her daughter was somewhere in this maze of corridors, and Elena would tear the entire station apart to find her. "Contact ahead," whispered Sergeant Rodriguez from her point position. 2 guards at the entrance to Detention Block 7. Elena crept forward and saw the Korthak guards, their reptilian forms hunched over control panels. Through the reinforced window beyond them, she could see rows of detention cells. One of them had to contain Princess Maria. "I'll take the left guard, Lisa gets the right," Elena whispered. "Silent takedown." Elena drew her combat knife and moved with the fluid grace of a trained killer. The Korthak guard never saw her coming as she struck, her blade finding the creature's vital organs with surgical precision. Jailbreaker has eliminated her target simultaneously, and both aliens dropped without making a sound. "I'm slicing their security system now," reported Corporal Alex Thompson, the team's technical specialist. "Give me 30 seconds to override the cell locks." Elena peered through the window into the detention block, scanning the cells for any sign of her daughter. The facility held dozens of prisoners from various alien species, all victims of the Korthak slave trade operations. There, Elena breathed, spotting a familiar figure in cell 47. Princess Maria Martinez sat on a metal bench, her diplomatic uniform torn and dirty, but her posture showing the same defiant strength that Elena had tried to instill in her. "Got it!" Corporal Thompson announced as the cell locks disengaged with a series of metallic clicks. Elena rushed into the detention block, her rifle covering the corridors while her eyes remained fixed on her daughter's cell. Maria looked up as the cell door opened, and Elena saw relief flood across the young woman's face. "Mom?" Maria whispered, hardly daring to believe what she was seeing. "I'm here, sweetheart," Elena replied, helping her daughter to her feet. "Let's go home." Princess Maria Martinez embraced her mother tightly. "I knew you'd come. I never doubted it for a second." Elena felt a surge of pride at her daughter's courage, but there was no time for lengthy reunions. "Can you move? Are you injured?" "I'm fine, Mom. They kept me isolated, but didn't hurt me. I think they were planning to auction me off to the highest bidder." Elena's jaw tightened with barely controlled fury. They made a serious mistake. "Steve, we have the package. Time to leave." Colonel Patterson's voice was urgent. "Your Majesty, we have major problems. Korthak reinforcements have surrounded our exit route, and they've restored partial shielding to the station. Our extraction point is compromised." Elena looked at her daughter, then at the tactical display showing enemy positions throughout the station. They were trapped, outnumbered, and running out of options. But Elena had faced impossible odds before, and she had no intention of losing now. "Then we make our own exit," Elena declared with deadly calm. Elena studied the station schematic on her tactical display while Korthak security forces closed in around their position. The detention block had only 2 exits, both now heavily guarded by enemy troops. Princess Maria stayed close to her mother, armed with a pulse pistol taken from one of the defeated guards. "Mom, what's the plan?" Maria asked, her voice steady despite their desperate situation. Elena pointed to a section of the station's outer hull. "We're going to blow a hole through the maintenance bay wall and create our own extraction point. Steve, I need your demolition expert to calculate the exact charge placement." Sergeant Mike Davis unpacked his demolition kit while Colonel Patterson coordinated with their forces outside the station. "Your Majesty, this is incredibly risky. If we miscalculate, we could breach the station's atmosphere containment and kill everyone in this section. Mike, I trained under Admiral Chen during the border wars. I've seen what happens to human prisoners in Korthak hands." Elena's voice was ice cold. "My daughter is not becoming another casualty statistic." The sound of approaching footsteps echoed through the corridors as enemy forces drew closer. Elena positioned her Marines at defensive positions while Sergeant Davis worked frantically on the explosive charges. Time was running out. "Contact in Corridor 7, reported Sergeant Rodriguez from her position. "Multiple hostiles approaching from the north access tunnel." Elena grabbed her rifle and moved to support her Marines. "Lisa, fall back to the secondary position. We'll make our stand at the maintenance bay entrance." The firefight erupted with devastating intensity as Korthak forces charged the human positions. Elena's enhanced combat armor absorbed several plasma bolts while she returned precise fire, each shot finding its target. Princess Maria fought alongside her mother with fierce determination, her diplomatic training replaced by survival instincts. "Charges are set, Your Majesty," Sergeant Davis announced. 10-second delay when you give the word." Elena looked at her daughter. "Maria, when that wall blows, we're going through fast. Stay close and keep your head down." "I'm ready, Mom," Maria replied, checking her weapon's power cell. "All units, prepare for emergency extraction," Elena commanded through her communicator. "We're coming out hot and need immediate pickup." Captain Brown's voice crackled through the static. "Roger, Your Majesty. Assault shuttle is standing by, but you'll need to clear the immediate area first. Too much enemy fire for a safe approach." Elena nodded grimly. "Wet. Steve, we're going to fight our way to the shuttle. No prisoners, no mercy." "Understood, Your Majesty," Colonel Patterson replied, his own weapon ready. The Korthak assault intensified as more enemy troops poured into the detention block. Elena realized they had perhaps minutes before being completely overwhelmed. The alien creatures were ruthless fighters, but they lacked the tactical flexibility and determination that had made humans dominant in galactic warfare. "Now, Mike," Elena ordered. The explosion was deafening in the confined space, and Elena felt the station's atmosphere rush past them as the outer hull was breached. Emergency containment fields activated, but they had created a hole large enough for extraction. "Go, go, go," Elena shouted, pushing Maria toward the breach. The assault shuttle appeared outside the jagged opening, its weapons blazing to clear enemy positions. Lieutenant Anderson brought the small craft as close as possible while enemy fire sparked off its armored hull. Elena was the last to board, providing covering fire while her Marines and daughter reached safety. A Korthak plasma bolt scorched her shoulder armor, but she ignored the pain and continued fighting until everyone was aboard. "Punch it, Carl!" Elena commanded as she sealed the shuttle's hatch. The assault shuttle accelerated away from the station under heavy fire, its pilot's skill the only thing keeping them from being destroyed. Elena held her daughter close while checking on her wounded Marines. They had completed their primary objective, but the battle was far from over. "Your Majesty, this is Admiral Jensen aboard the Intrepid," came a transmission. "We've received reinforcements from the Fifth Fleet. 18 additional vessels have arrived in system." Elena smiled with fierce satisfaction. "Then it's time to finish this. Paul, I want every Korthak installation in this system reduced to scrap metal." "Your Majesty," Admiral Jensen replied. "What about potential prisoners and slaves aboard their facilities?" Elena looked at her daughter, remembering the dozens of captives she had seen in the detention block. "We extract every prisoner we can find, then we destroy everything else. The Korthak Syndicate ends today." As the assault shuttle docked with the Intrepid, Elena could see through the viewports that the tide of battle had turned decisively. Human vessels outnumbered the remaining Korthak forces 3-1, and the enemy fleet was in full retreat. Princess Maria looked at her mother with admiration. "Mom, you started a war to rescue me." Elena helped her daughter out of the shuttle. "Maria, I didn't start a war, I finished one. The Korthak have been preying on human ships and colonies for years. Today they learned why that was a mistake." The bridge of the Intrepid was a scene of controlled activity as Elena resumed command of the battle. Her shoulder wound had been treated by the medical team, but adrenaline still coursed through her veins as she coordinated the final assault. "Your Majesty, we're detecting massive prisoner compounds on the third moon," Lieutenant Foster reported. "Scanners show at least 3,000 captives of various species, including approximately 200 humans." Elena's expression hardened. "Captain Brown, coordinate with the fleet. I want simultaneous assaults on every Korthak facility in this system. We're liberating everyone they've captured." The human fleet moved with precision and overwhelming force, each vessel targeting specific installations while rescue teams prepared for extraction operations. Bela watched from the bridge as the Korthak Syndicate's primary stronghold was systematically destroyed. "Your Majesty, enemy fleet commander is requesting terms for surrender," Communications Officer Walsh announced. Elena stepped forward, her voice carrying across the bridge. "Tell War Captain Zekthar that the only terms I'm offering are complete surrender and full accounting of every prisoner they've taken. Otherwise, we continue until nothing remains of their operation." The final victory was swift and complete. Within 6 hours, the human fleet had liberated over 4,000 prisoners, destroyed the Korthak Syndicate's most important base, and sent a clear message across the galaxy about the consequences of threatening human citizens. As Elena stood on the bridge with her daughter beside her, she reflected on the day's events. A mother's love had sparked the mobilization of an entire fleet, and the human response had been swift and overwhelming. 3 days after the liberation of Vex Prime, Queen Elena Martinez stood in the grand throne room of the palace on New Terra, addressing representatives from across the human colonial empire. Princess Maria sat beside her throne, recovered from her ordeal but changed by the experience. "The attack on my daughter was not just an assault on the royal family," Elena declared to the assembled dignitaries. "It was an attack on every human citizen in the galaxy." The Korthak Syndicate learned that humanity protects its own, regardless of the cost. Admiral Jensen approached the throne with a detailed report. Your Majesty, the final casualty count from the Vex Prime operation shows minimal human losses. We lost 3 ships and 47 personnel, but we rescued over 4,000 prisoners and completely destroyed the Korthak's primary slave trading operation. Elena nodded solemnly. Those 47 heroes died, ensuring that thousands would live free. Their sacrifice will not be forgotten. Princess Maria stood and addressed the assembly. During my captivity, I witnessed the systematic brutality that the Korthak inflicted on their prisoners. What my mother accomplished was not just a rescue mission, but a liberation of everyone trapped in that system. Foreign Minister Carol Adams stepped forward with diplomatic reports. Your Majesty, we're receiving communications from governments across the galaxy. Many are expressing support for our actions, but some of the more cautious species are concerned about human military capabilities. Elena's expression remained stern. Carol let them be concerned. For too long, predatory species like the Korthak have operated with impunity because civilized worlds were too afraid to take decisive action. Humanity will not hesitate to defend itself and its allies. Captain Helen Gray, the mining ship captain whose vessel had enabled the station assault, stood among the honored guests. Elena had personally decorated her and the crews of all vessels that had responded to the emergency call. The response had demonstrated something remarkable about human nature. Your Majesty, Captain Gray said when called upon, I want you to know that every human ship in that sector would have responded the same way. When the call went out that the princess was in danger, there wasn't a moment's hesitation. Elena felt a surge of pride in her species. Helen, that's exactly why humanity has thrived among the stars. We understand that individual strength comes from collective unity. When one human is threatened, all humans respond. The economic implications of their actions were already becoming clear. Trade Minister Robert Hall presented statistics showing that galactic commerce in the affected sectors had increased dramatically as worlds previously terrorized by the Korthak began engaging in open trade again. Your Majesty, eliminating the Korthak Syndicate has opened new markets worth trillions of credits annually, Minister Hall reported. More importantly, shipping losses to piracy in that region have dropped to nearly zero. Elena turned to her military commanders. Paul, what's the status of our ongoing operations? Admiral Jensen consulted his tactical pad. Your Majesty, we've identified 17 other Korthak installations across the galaxy. Intelligence suggests they're evacuating their remaining bases and attempting to relocate their operations to uncharted systems. They'll find that difficult, Elena replied with satisfaction. Word of what happened at Vex Prime is spreading throughout the criminal underworld. Other predatory species are reconsidering their activities in human space. Princess Maria had been listening intently to the military briefings. Mom, what about the prisoners we rescued? Many of them were from species that don't have strong governments to help them. Elena smiled at her daughter's compassion. Maria, we've established refugee assistance centers on 3 worlds. Anyone who is enslaved by the Korthak will receive full support until they can return to their homes or establish new lives in human space. The throne room discussion continued for several hours as Elena coordinated the Empire's response to their new strategic position. The decisive action at Vex Prime had elevated humanity's status among galactic civilizations and sent a clear message about human resolve. Dr. Amanda Peterson, the Empire's chief xenobiologist, provided analysis of the alien species they had encountered during the rescue operation. Your Majesty, we've documented 14 previously unknown sentient species among the rescued prisoners. This represents a significant advancement in our understanding of galactic civilization. Elena was particularly interested in establishing contact with species that had been victims of Korthak predation. Amanda, I want full diplomatic outreach to any species that lost citizens to the Korthak. Will share intelligence about their operations and coordinate anti-piracy efforts. The session concluded with Elena addressing the broader implications of recent events. Today marks a turning point in human galactic policy. We will no longer simply defend our own territory. Humanity will actively oppose criminal organizations that prey on civilized species anywhere in the galaxy. As the assembly dispersed, Elena walked with Maria through the palace gardens. The princess had shown remarkable courage during her captivity and throughout the rescue operation. Mom, do you think they'll try something like this again? Maria asked. Elena considered the question carefully. Other criminal organizations will certainly test our resolve, but they'll be much more cautious about targeting humans directly. What happened at Vex Prime will become legend in certain circles. Maria nodded thoughtfully. I learned something during those 53 hours. Being captured showed me how valuable freedom really is, and how far our people will go to protect it. Elena put her arm around her daughter's shoulders. Maria, you'll be queen someday. Remember this lesson. True leadership means being willing to risk everything for those under your protection. The crown isn't just a symbol of power, it's a commitment to serve. As they walked through the garden, Elena reflected on how quickly the situation had developed and resolved. Within 72 hours, a diplomatic mission had become a rescue operation, which had evolved into a full military campaign that reshaped the galactic balance of power. The human colonial empire had demonstrated its capability and resolve on an unprecedented scale. More importantly, the rapid response from civilian vessels throughout human space had proven that their civilization possessed something that many alien species lacked: the willingness of ordinary citizens to sacrifice for their community.
Elena looked up at the stars beginning to appear in the evening sky.
Knowing that humanity's position among them had been forever changed by a mother's determination to rescue her daughter. 6 months after the Vex Prime incident, Queen Elena Martinez reviewed intelligence reports in her private study aboard the flagship Intrepid. The ship was conducting a routine patrol through the outer colonies, but Elena's real purpose was monitoring the long-term effects of their actions against the Korthak Syndicate. Your Majesty, the latest reports from Galactic Intelligence show remarkable developments, said Colonel James Patterson, who had been promoted after his service during the rescue mission. 17 different alien governments have requested formal anti-piracy cooperation agreements with the human colonial empire. Elena studied the diplomatic documents with interest. James, 6 months ago these same governments were concerned about human military expansion. Now they want our protection. Princess Maria entered the study carrying her own intelligence briefings. Since her rescue, she had thrown herself into studying galactic politics and military strategy with new intensity. Mom, look at these trade statistics. Commerce in the sectors we cleared of Korthak operations has increased by 400%.
Elena nodded with satisfaction.
Predatory organizations create economic dead zones wherever they operate. Eliminating them benefits everyone. The door chimed, and Admiral Jensen entered with Captain Brown and several senior staff officers. Your Majesty, we've received priority communications from Earth Command. General Murphy requests immediate consultation regarding new developments. Elena activated the secure communication array, and General Murphy's image appeared on the wall display. His expression was serious but not alarmed. Elena, we've intercepted communications suggesting that several criminal organizations are attempting to form an alliance specifically to counter human expansion, General Murphy reported. Intelligence indicates they're calling it the Syndicate Coalition. Elena's eyes narrowed. Kevin, how credible is this intelligence? Very credible. Our sources indicate at least 5 major criminal organizations are involved, including the remnants of the Korthak Syndicate and the Vaxian Cartel. They're apparently coordinating operations from a mobile base somewhere in the neutral zone. Princess Maria leaned forward with interest. General Murphy, what kind of operations are they planning? Princess, their primary strategy appears to be targeting human civilian vessels and colonies to demonstrate that our military can't protect everyone. They're trying to force us into a defensive posture. Elena stood and walked to the tactical display showing human territory throughout the galaxy. Kevin, they're making the same mistake the Korthak made. They think humanity will negotiate when threatened. Admiral Jensen joined the conversation. Your Majesty, a coordinated campaign against multiple targets could strain our military resources significantly. They might achieve some tactical victories. Elena turned to face her senior commanders with the steel determination that had defined her reign. Paul, tactical victories are irrelevant if we respond with absolute strategic destruction. These criminals want to test human resolve. Again. Captain Brown consulted her navigation charts. Your Majesty, if they're operating from the neutral zone, we'll need authorization from the Galactic Council to pursue them. Elena's smile was cold and predatory. Lisa, the Galactic Council moves too slowly and talks too much. By the time they authorize action, these criminals will have killed thousands of innocent people. So what do you propose? General Murphy asked from Earth Command. Elena activated the fleet-wide communication system. Kevin, I'm gonna demonstrate something these criminals haven't considered. They think humanity's response at Vex Prime was exceptional. They're about to learn it was standard procedure. Elena addressed her senior staff. James, I want intelligence on every known criminal organization in the galaxy. Focus on their bases, supply lines, and leadership structures. Paul, begin mobilizing the 2nd and 4th fleets for extended operations. Princess. Maria looked at her mother with growing understanding. Mom, you're not just planning to stop this syndicate coalition. You're planning to eliminate organized crime from human space entirely. Maria, these predators operate on the assumption that civilized species will tolerate a certain level of criminal activity rather than pay the cost of eliminating it completely, Elena explained. Humanity is going to prove them wrong. The communication from Earth Command continued as General Murphy coordinated with Elena's expanding plans. Elena, the Joint Chiefs are concerned about the resources required for such an extensive campaign. Elena's response was immediate and uncompromising. Kevin, 6 months ago we spent more resources rescuing one person than most governments spend on military operations in a year. The principle is the same whether we're protecting one citizen or 10 million. Admiral Jensen raised a tactical concern. Your Majesty, if we launch simultaneous operations against multiple criminal organizations, we'll be fighting on dozens of fronts across several galactic sectors. Elena nodded. Paul, that's exactly what I want. These organizations have survived by being scattered and elusive. We're going to force them to either consolidate their forces for a major confrontation, or watch us systematically destroy them piecemeal. Captain Brown began calculating fleet movements and logistics. Your Majesty, this will require unprecedented coordination between regular military forces, intelligence operations, and civilian support vessels. Elena walked to the viewport showing the stars beyond. Lisa, the response at Vex Prime proved that humans excel at exactly this kind of coordination. When we put out the call for assistance, ships came from across the galaxy. The planning session continued for several hours as Elena outlined her strategy for what would become known as the Great Purge. Rather than waiting for criminal organizations to strike first, humanity would take the initiative and systematically eliminate every major predatory group operating in their region of a galaxy. Your Majesty, there's one more consideration, Colonel Patterson interjected. Some of these criminal organizations have been operating for centuries and have extensive political connections throughout the galaxy. Elena's expression hardened. James, any government that provides sanctuary to criminals who prey on innocent civilians will discover that such protection comes at a cost. Princess Maria had been studying the intelligence reports with growing excitement. Mom, this campaign could establish humanity as the dominant peacekeeping force in the galaxy. Elena put her hand on her daughter's shoulder. Maria, that's not our goal. Our goal is creating a galaxy where civilized species can prosper without fear of predation. If that makes humanity dominant, so be it. The final element of Elena's strategy involves psychological warfare on an unprecedented scale. Rather than conducting covert operations, she planned to make the campaign as public as possible. I want every criminal organization in the galaxy to know we're coming, Elena declared. Fear is more effective than firepower in breaking their will to resist. As the meeting concluded, Admiral Jensen made one final observation. Your Majesty, this campaign will fundamentally change humanity's relationship with every other galactic civilization. Elena looked out at the stars with absolute determination. Paul, 6 months ago the Korthak thought they could take my daughter without consequences. Today, every criminal organization in the galaxy is about to learn that threatening any human anywhere results in the same response. The Great Purge was about to begin, and Queen Elena Martinez intended to end the age of galactic piracy forever. 1 year after the Vex Prime rescue, the Great Purge had evolved into the largest military campaign in galactic history. Queen Elena Martinez stood in the main command center aboard the newly commissioned battleship Retribution, coordinating simultaneous operations across 17 star systems. Your Majesty, Operation Cleansing Fire has eliminated the Vaxian cartel's primary base, reported Admiral Jensen from his tactical station. That's the 14th major criminal organization we've destroyed this quarter. Elena studied the galactic map showing the results of their campaign. Red markers indicated eliminated criminal operations, while blue markers showed liberated territories now under human protection. The transformation was remarkable. Princess Maria worked alongside her mother, having taken an active leadership role in coordinating refugee assistance programs. Mom, we've now liberated over 50,000 prisoners from various criminal operations. The refugee processing centers are operating at maximum capacity. Elena nodded with satisfaction. Maria, every person we've freed represents a victory over the predatory mindset that has plagued galactic civilization for centuries. Captain Helen Gray entered the command center with updates from the civilian support fleet. Her mining ship Prospector had been converted into a mobile repair station, and she now commanded a squadron of merchant vessels providing logistical support for military operations. Your Majesty, the civilian response continues to exceed all expectations, Captain Gray reported. We now have over 300 volunteer vessels supporting the campaign, from cargo ships to passenger liners converted for hospital duty. Elena felt a surge of pride in humanity's response. Helen, this proves that our strength doesn't come from military superiority alone. It comes from ordinary citizens willing to sacrifice for the common good. Communications Officer Tony Walsh announced an incoming priority transmission. Your Majesty, Admiral Rachel Thompson aboard the carrier Dominion requests immediate consultation regarding the neutral zone operation. Elena activated the main display to show Admiral Thompson's image. Rachel, what's your status? Your Majesty, we've located the Syndicate Coalition's mobile command base. It's a converted space station with heavy defensive capabilities and at least 40 escort vessels, Admiral Thompson reported. They're attempting to coordinate the remaining criminal organizations into a unified resistance. Elena studied the tactical assessment with growing interest. Rachel, this is exactly what we wanted. Instead of hunting scattered groups across the galaxy, they've consolidated their forces for us. Admiral Jensen joined the tactical discussion. Your Majesty, our intelligence suggests they have approximately 60 vessels total, including ships from at least 8 different criminal organizations. It's the largest concentration of hostile forces we've encountered. Elena turned to Princess Maria. What do you think their strategy is? Maria had developed remarkable strategic insight during the campaign. They're probably hoping to inflict enough casualties to force humanity into negotiating some kind of truce. They don't understand that we're not interested in coexistence with criminals. Elena smiled at her daughter's analysis. Exactly right. They think this is a traditional territorial dispute where both sides eventually reach an accommodation. Captain Brown approached with fleet coordination data. Your Majesty, we can have the 1st, 3rd, and 5th fleets converging on their position within 18 hours. Total force would be 112 vessels. Elena considered the tactical situation. Lisa, I want overwhelming force for this engagement. These are the leaders and most dangerous operators from multiple criminal organizations. There can be no possibility of escape. The command center buzzed with activity as staff officers coordinated the largest fleet concentration in human military history. Elena watched the preparations with the calm focus that had defined her leadership throughout the campaign. Your Majesty, Colonel Patterson reported, intelligence intercepts suggest some of the criminal leaders are attempting to negotiate sanctuary with governments in the Outer Rim territories. Elena's expression hardened. James, any government that provides sanctuary to these criminals will be considered complicit in their activities. I want that message sent through diplomatic channels immediately. Foreign Minister Carol Adams handled the diplomatic communication while Elena finalized military preparations. The human campaign had already forced several governments to reconsider their tolerance for criminal activities within their territory. Your Majesty, we're receiving responses from the diplomatic notes, Minister Adams reported. Most governments are distancing themselves from the criminal organizations and denying any sanctuary requests. Elena nodded with satisfaction. Carol, the threat of human military action has accomplished more diplomatic progress in 1 year than centuries of traditional negotiation. Princess Maria raised an important question. Mom, what happens after we eliminate the Syndicate Coalition? Won't other criminal organizations eventually emerge? Elena considered her daughter's question carefully. Maria, we're not just destroying existing criminal organizations. We're fundamentally changing the cost-benefit calculation for anyone considering a criminal career. Admiral Jensen reported final fleet preparations. Your Majesty, all task forces are in position. We're ready to commence the final phase of Operation Cleansing Fire. Elena activated the fleet-wide communication system to address all human forces involved in the engagement. Officers and crew of the human colonial fleet. Today we complete a mission that began when criminals thought they could prey on our citizens with impunity. She continued, her voice carrying absolute determination. The Syndicate Coalition represents everything we've fought against. The belief that the strong can exploit the weak without consequence. Today, we prove them wrong. The final battle of the Great Purge began with coordinated strikes from 3 different fleet groups, surrounding the criminals' mobile base and eliminating any possibility of escape. Elena watched from the command center as human tactical superiority overwhelmed the enemy forces. "Enemy command vessel is requesting surrender terms," Communications Officer Walsh announced. Elena stepped forward. "Tell him the same terms we've offered every criminal organization. Complete surrender, full disclosure of all operations, and cooperation in liberating any remaining prisoners." The battle concluded within 4 hours, with the complete destruction or surrender of every enemy vessel. Elena looked at the tactical display showing the end of organized galactic crime as they had known it. Admiral Thompson's voice came over the communication system. "Your Majesty, we've secured over 2,000 prisoners from the enemy vessels, including the leadership of 7 different criminal organizations." Elena turned to Princess Maria. "What do you think the long-term implications will be?" Maria studied the galactic map with thoughtful consideration. "Mom, I think we've established humanity as the galaxy's primary peacekeeping force. Other civilizations will look to us for security." Elena nodded. "Maria, with that responsibility comes the obligation to use our power wisely. The Great Purge was necessary, but now we must focus on building sustainable peace." As she looked out at the stars, Elena reflected on how far they had come from that desperate day when her daughter had been kidnapped. What had begun as a mother's determination to rescue her child had evolved into humanity's emergence as the galaxy's dominant force for justice and order. The age of galactic piracy was over, and a new era of human-led peacekeeping was about to begin.